friends, it's Rana, and in August of 2020, I made a 5-star prediction video where I talked about 6 books that I thought I might give 5 stars. I read most of the books in that video early on, except for one book which I couldn't find anywhere, and it was House of Leaves. I couldn't find it anywhere or read it until October of 2021. I read it in October of 2021 and I forgot to make an update video of the 5-star prediction video. That's why we are here a year and a half later, finally wrapping up this video. And at the end of this video, I'll be making 6 new 5-star predictions. Let's start with the wrap-up. The first book I mentioned is The Golem and the Genie by Helen Wicker. This is a historical fantasy about a newly created golem called Khava and a recently released genie called Ahmed, and how their paths cross in New York City in 1899 and how they became unlikely friends. Now the question is, did I give this book 5 stars? No, I didn't. I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed the story and the characters. It was an amazing book. It was very close to 5 stars, but it didn't quite reach the 5-star point for me. But it was close enough for me to consider it a success. Now the next book, which is the reason behind me doing this video 1.5 years later, is House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski. Now this book was a lot. I went on a roller coaster ride reading this book, but I won't say much about it or what is it about here. But if you want, I made a separate review video if you'd like to know more about this book. Did I give this book 5 stars? No, I gave it 3 stars. It was a lot, as I said. I don't know how I feel about it yet. It wasn't bad, it had potential, but I didn't love it as much as I thought I would. The next book is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Casey. This book is the one that I consider it to be the official fail on this list. Because I attempted to read it, I read like 3 pages of it, then I wasn't feeling it, so I immediately DNF'd it. I don't think I'll ever try to reread this book again. I didn't like the writing style, and if I'm curious about it in the future, I'll just watch the movie. The next book is Sleeping Giants by Sylvain Neuvel. This book is a science fiction book which starts with a girl who accidentally fell in a hole on Earth, and she later wakes up to realize that she actually fell on a giant metal hand. Years later, she becomes a part of a team who are secretly trying to find out the secret behind this giant metal hand and other similar parts found all around the world. This book was okay. It was another 3 stars. I didn't hate it. It was alright. I just expected greatness from it, but ended up with mediocreness. I later found out something about myself, that I really hate books written in the format of interviews, which is how the entirety of this book was written. The next book is Invisible Women by Caroline Criado Perez. It is a nonfiction book that tackles the issue of data bias, data gap, and how it negatively impacts women and how it also endangers their lives. It wasn't an easy read. It shocked me a couple of times and angered me other times, seeing how the world is unfair to women. I give this book 4 out of 5 stars. I think it is a great book talking about a great subject, but I think it has room for improvement, like cut down on repetitiveness and try to propose a solution. The last book is The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. This book was everywhere on booktube in 2020. If you don't know what it is about Linus Baker, a 40-year-old lonely man who works as a caseworker in the Department of Magical Youth. Each day is the same to him. All he do in his life is work, until one day he is given a highly classified assignment to go and inspect an orphanage on an island, which is nothing like any other orphanage he ever inspected. I love this book, gave it 5 stars, and it was on my top 10 books of 2020. I really adore this book, and I can't wait to have the chance to reread it. Now for my new 6 5-stars predictions, you might think that it is a little bit weird that I pick 6 predictions instead of 5 like everyone else does. The reason is a little bit silly, is because I hate odd numbers. That's why I picked 6 instead of 5. Now for my new list of predictions, we have 2 fantasy, 2 historical fictions, 1 thriller and 1 classic. For the fantasy books, first we have City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty. This book, I heard many amazing things about it, and I heard that it has jinn in it, and I really love reading about jinn in fantasy books like The Golem and the Jinni. The synopsis says, in the markets of 18th century Cairo, thieves, tricksters, con artists, and outcasts eke out a living swindling rich nobles and foreign invaders alike. But alongside this new world, the old stories linger, tales of jinn and spirits, of cities hidden among the swirling sands of the desert, full of enchantment, desire, and riches, where magic pours down every street, hanging in the air like dust. Many wish their lives could be filled with wonder, but not Nahri. She knows the trades she uses to get by are just tricks and sleights of hand. There is nothing magical about her. She only wishes to one day leave Cairo. But as the saying goes, be careful what you wish for. The next fantasy book is The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. It is actually one book, but it is separated into 2 books. I am already about to finish the first half, then start the second half. I swear I had this book on my 5-star prediction before I started reading it. So far it is a great book, but will it be a 5 stars? We shall see. Let's read the synopsis of the first half. Roshar is a world of stone and storms. It is terrifying, and frequent tempests have shaped ecology and civilizations alike. Animals hide in shells and trees, pull in branches. Cities are built only where the land offers shelter. It has been centuries since the fall of the 10 consecrated orders, known as the Knights Radiant, but their shard blades and shard plate remain, mystical swords and suits of armor that transform ordinary men into near-invisible warriors. Men traded kingdoms for shard blades. Wars were fought for them and won by them. One such war is about to swallow up a soldier, a bright lord, and a young woman scholar. As for historical fiction, the first historical fiction we have is The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna. I have previously read 2 books by Kristen Hanna, The Nightingale and The Great Alone, and both got 5 stars from me. Kristen Hanna is a great author, and that's why I have this book on my list. It is because she never let me down before. As for what The Four Winds is about, Texas 1934, millions are out of work and a drought has broken in the Great Plains. Farmers are fighting to keep their land and their livelihoods as the crops are failing. The water is drying up and the dust threatens to bury them all. One of the darkest periods of the Great Depression, the Dust Bowl era, has arrived with vengeance. In this uncertain and dangerous time, Elsa Martinelli, like so many of her neighbors, must make an agonizing choice: fight for the land she loves or go west to California in search of a better life. The Four Winds is an indelible portrait of America and the American dream, as seen through the eyes of one indomitable woman whose courage and sacrifice will come to define a generation. The next historical fiction is The Island of Sea Women by Lisa C. I have been interested in South Korea for about 13 years now, and I really like reading about its culture, its history, and everything about it. I heard many things about the women divers of Jeju Island, and I heard that this book talks about them, so I really wanted to pick it up and see what it is about. And from the synopsis, I think that I will love it. The synopsis reads: set on the Korean island of Jeju, the Island of Sea Women follows Mija and Young-suk, 2 girls from very different backgrounds, as they begin working in the sea with their village's all-female diving collective. Over many decades, through the Japanese colonialism of the 1930s and 1940s, the Second World War, the Korean War, and the era of cell phones and wetsuits for the women divers, Mija and Young-suk developed the closest of bonds. Nevertheless, their differences are impossible to ignore. Mija, the daughter of a Japanese collaborator, forever marking her, and Young-suk was born into a long line of Hinyu and will inherit her mother's position leading the divers. After hundreds of dives and years of friendship, forces outside their control will push their relationship to the breaking point. As for the only classic on my list, we have The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. It's been a hot minute since the last time I read a classic book, and I haven't been enjoying classic as much as I used to, but I have a gut feeling that I will love this one. The only thing that I know about this book is about a young man that sells his soul for eternal youth, and there's something about a portrait of himself that gets older as he stays young or something like that. Many people say that it is better to go into it knowing absolutely nothing. That's why I'm gonna do that. As for the last book on this list is a thriller called A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. It's also been a while since I read any thriller or mystery books. I used to read a lot of them and really enjoy reading them. I haven't found the one thriller book that I love wholeheartedly, but I think this will be the one. As for the synopsis, the case is closed. 5 years ago, schoolgirl Andy Bell was murdered by Sal Singh. The police know he did it, everyone in town knows he did it. But having grown up in the same small town that was consumed by the murder, Peppa Fitz Amobi isn't so sure. When she chooses the case as the topic for her final year project, she starts to uncover secrets that someone in town desperately wants to stay hidden. And if the real killer is still out there, how far will they go to keep Pip from the truth? So that's it for my new 5-star predictions. I think, or I am sure, that I will be able to read all of them by the end of this year. I hope that it won't take me more than a year to read them all, and I have high hopes this time that all of these books will get 4 or 5 stars from me, because I was more picky when I picked these books as my 5-star predictions. So that's it for today's video. I hope you liked it. Please subscribe to see my future videos, and I will see you next time. Bye!